Hello and welcome to the Movie Therapy channel. We are Jim and Sam, and this is the show where we like to give you our rating first and then talk about the things we did and did not like about the movie we just saw. Today's movie is Spider-Man Far From Home. This will be a spoilers review. So if you haven't seen the movie, there will be some light spoilers we will talk about. We're not going to give a whole bunch of stuff away, but you will be able to piece together some stuff that happens in this film by some of the things we are going to talk about. So just giving you that warning up front. So what did you guys think of Spider-Man Far From Home? If you've seen it, is a see it, wait for it, or pass it, let us know, because we're letting you know in 3, 2, 1, see it. This is, I feel like, a perfect continuation of Spider-Man Homecoming. This is not the best Spider-Man movie yet, but it is the second best Spider-Man 2 movie we have gotten so far. Okay, so Spider-Man Far From Home. Let's talk about the things that we liked first. For me, I like the atmosphere, the tone. It's very funny, jokey. I also really like the performances. Jake Gyllenhaal is a standout. And when we actually step back and analyze Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, the layers that he actually puts into the acting, whereas he's actually sort of acting as someone acting as another person. You know, you almost have to go back to like Tropic Thunder with Robert Downey Jr. being like, I'm the dude playing a dude that's disguised as another dude. Like, that's almost kind of like Jake Gyllenhaal's take on Mysterio. And if you're familiar with Mysterio, it's nothing new, but if you're not familiar with Mysterio, there's some great twists and turns, and Jake Gyllenhaal has a lot of fun with the character.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you really liked?
I thought it was really fun. It was a really fun film, and I also like that it was a lot lighter of a superhero film than we've been getting, because we had the Avengers and then we had Avengers Endgame, and so this was going back to the reasons why we like to go to the movies to see superhero movies, because it was just a really good time.
That's a nice palate cleanser.
Yeah, it's like after Endgame, it was like, whoa, that like was a lot of emotions. It was a lot going on there, and you lost a lot of people when we watched that, especially Iron Man. And so going back to kind of the fun superhero movies that we always usually get, it was nice to see that right after Endgame. Yeah,
one of the things I do like about the Spider-Man films is that they are, at least in the MCU Spider-Man films, as far as Homecoming and Far From Home, is that they are smaller scale, not saving the world from, you know, destruction kind of films.
Yeah.
I've talked with other people about like some of their favorite Marvel films are the ones that where it's not the world is at stake, but it's really like the smaller scaled films are just a little bit more fun to watch, and they're just easier to digest.
Yeah.
That, you know, Ant-Man falls into that category, and Spider-Man also falls into that, and I actually like that these feel like smaller personal films. And this one is very much just a teenage boy on vacation who wants to spend time with the girl that he likes.
Yeah.
I really like the relationship between Peter Parker and MJ in this. I actually don't think they called her anything other than MJ. Did they actually refer to her as Michelle?
I did not catch that. I don't think they called her Michelle.
So strictly feels like they're just now calling her MJ, and she's now taking the mantle of MJ in the MCU. Really like Peter's friendship with Ned. That was also really great.
Ned is really fun.
Ned's fantastic. The teachers are really funny. So also really like that. I was going to go into favorite scene, but I also just want to touch on the action in this film is a step up from the previous one. The action is quite a bit grander. Specifically, the final action set piece on the bridge is fantastic. Whereas the first film felt very personal with just a struggle between Peter and the Vulture. The fight with Spider-Man and Mysterio at the end is, and the elemental thing is like fantastic.
Yeah.
It's big, it's grand. Really probably one of the better set pieces we've had in a Spider-Man movie in a really long time.
Yeah, I actually really like the villain. I like the incorporation of the drones.
Yeah.
Like all of the illusions were really cool.
So now let's go into our favorite scene. My personal favorite scene is the first illusion nightmare that gets enacted on Spider-Man. That's the one when Nick Fury picks him up, and then all of a sudden it just descends into hell. We see like zombie Iron Man. We see giant Mysterio. We're going through like the Hall of Mirrors and all this crazy stuff. And it's really like the first time we see Spider-Man, who's essentially at this point never really been physically bested, and he's now in an element where he's way out. He feels like he's way out of his league. And it's like one of the first times in a Spider-Man in this iteration of the MCU Spider-Man, where it feels like Spider-Man has finally met someone who is a match for him. It was a fantastic scene. It's the one that ends up with him being hit by the train. Absolutely my favorite part of this film.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite scenes was when he was inside of the illusion at the end, fighting all of the drones inside, right before the villain catches him.
Yeah. That is, the whole end sequence is pretty awesome. It's a fairly lengthy end sequence.
It is very lengthy. I think all of the fight scenes or action sequences were fairly long, and they were really good.
Yeah.
Like I guess the sequence when the first time he meets the villain, and Ned and his girlfriend are on the Ferris wheel. I really enjoyed that sequence.
Yeah, that is with the fire elemental.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one. So now let's go into things that we didn't like about the film, if any at all.
Yeah.
Was there anything about this film that you were iffy on?
Not in particular. Like, I really enjoyed it from the beginning to the end. I was very intrigued by the entire film. I don't think there was a sequence or any time that I was even relatively bored. It was all really good.
Yeah. For me, kind of two things. One, it does take a little bit for it to get going. So there is a big setup. One of the reasons I think the film's a little longer, it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's a little longer because they actually take quite a bit of time setting it up and getting to London or Paris. I think it ends in London, but I believe they go to
Prague, then they go to...
Yeah, it's a little globe-trotty over in Europe where they're at. Yeah. But it takes a little while to actually get there. It's probably like a good 20 or 30 minutes before we actually get into the whole crux of the story, which is involving Mysterio and the Elementals. And the other thing that maybe it's just something I'm ready for, and I want them to actually just go gung-ho into it, that I feel like the cities aren't a part of the stories they're telling. Whereas, to put it into context, I feel like New York City was always a character in of itself in the previous Spider-Man franchises. Yeah. So, like, Spider-Man swinging through the city and interacting with the people, saving people from buildings. His interaction with J. Jonah Jameson. Even in The Amazing Spider-Man, when you have, like, New York City, the crane workers bringing the metal pieces up so he can swing across and go fight the lizard. Like, stuff like that, I feel like is missing from this MCU Spider-Man, and I'm ready for this MCU Spider-Man to kind of grow up. And that's probably that was probably my biggest quip of Homecoming as well. That is very small town Spider-Man. He's grown into like Middletown Spider-Man far from home. Now I want big city Spider-Man. So, a minor nitpick, it doesn't really bring the film down at all. It's just something that I'm personally ready for and something that I know and love Spider-Man for. Mm-hmm. So that's just me. Everything else I thought was absolutely fantastic. It's funny, it's witty, acting is fantastic. Even with Nick Fury and Maria Hill, like they feel a little off throughout the film, and then like once you see the final post-credit sequence, you're like, oh. That's why they feel a little off. The depth, like the little levels that they go to actually differentiate the characters.
It's kind of amazing.
Like when you actually take a step back and realize like what they're doing and what they're doing the whole film, it's like, oh, that was actually kind of brilliant on their part. So like all that's really impressive. And I mean, there's pretty much not much else for me to get into. Let's do one quick spoiler discussion. Because I do want to know, what was your thought at the twist in the middle of the film when like all is revealed of what's going on?
I was a little confused. I was like, wait, what? I mean, I caught on quickly and I was like, oh, okay, he is the bad guy. Because in the trailer, I thought he was the bad guy. So I was very confused when he turned out to be like the good guy in the beginning. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. And then once you realized exactly who he is, you were like, oh, okay, this makes more sense.
So I knew it was coming because I know the Mysterio character. He's always been a personal favorite of mine, even specifically just from a design standpoint. I always loved the way he looked. And so they stayed true to character to who Mysterio is. And this is, for me, the best iteration of the character that I've probably seen. Yeah. He's always been kind of like a throwaway villain. They absolutely made him a standout in this, and he is probably one of the most dangerous villains that... One of the things that also makes him very dangerous is that he doesn't feel like he's being a villain. He feels like his cause is just. So that's one of the other things that made him interesting. But this is, to me, the best iteration of Mysterio that we've probably ever had.
Have we had another one?
Well, I'm just saying, like, in comic books, cartoons, like, I'm familiar with Mysterio. So, that's it for me.
That's it for me.
All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time, guys.